Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this duration of the web series The Lost Terran. If you are new to the series, there is a playlist listed down below in the description. And as always, I hope that you enjoy. Chapter 20. So what kind of trade do we need to work out for the SkullNet link? Rix asked.
Given that it is likely no more than a simple matter, an energy feed to the auto fabricator, similar to the onboard portable printer, I do not expect there to be any request for trade, Montes said.
The pair were back aboard the Esperanto, and Rix had a gravity set to his normal, which meant that the walking frame wasn't going much of anywhere in a hurry. Got a plan to trade. It's wrong to expect help and not have anything to offer in trade. At least if it's not essential.
What did you have in mind?
Munter prompted. I guess I was thinking about maybe some data files, maybe some Terran entertainment, Rix said, and appeared to think further. Nah, given her reaction, Terran entertainment would probably be like watching an odd horror movie.
I would concur with that assessment, but I am unable to confirm as to why that would be, given the limited information regarding Quinn,
Montu said, rebrowsing the guide to Quinn in the background. So what is a Quinn? The station master, she, right? Rix asked, hands frozen in mid-gesture, waiting for the confirmation rune from the walking frame. She's like a kind of bird, right? Montu took a moment to compare this particular word against the lexicon of Terran. Interestingly, Bryan was both a feathered avian being and, to refer to the guide and the lexicon simultaneously, a beautiful female type of the Quinn.
In a manner of speaking, that is not entirely incorrect assessment. It is exceedingly simplified, and I would advise caution in describing Station Master Bryan as such. While I have no reason to suppose that such language would necessarily be considered a slur, there is a non-zero chance that it would be construed as such, Munter replied.
Rix appeared to be thoughtful for a few moments. Weird though, meeting a Xeno and she's a Quinn.
Please explain how the situation is weird as you describe it.
I never really figured I'd meet a full sapient Xeno. Off-world wallabies, Xenohounds, even some ostrich-like critters on Phyrexa. It's just never seemed like a real possibility. But with all the worlds we've already settled, Rick shrugged and leaned back.
Based on the available information I have retained, given the size and space of normal time continuum and the species as well as the great filters, it was by virtue of Terran intervention that a number of species have reached the stars, having been elevated artificially to even coexist within same/similar time frame.
Montu flashed a rune for entropic demise, which Rix took a moment to look up. So what do you get a Quinn, especially one who lives this far out? Rix eventually asked.
Given the information provided by the station database, I believe some simple Quinn amenities would be welcome. Failing that, I do not have any suggestions.
Well, given all the concern over germs and viruses and the like, we probably don't want to wander around too many people unless we have to, Rix nodded.
It may be possible for me to collect some samples from you and have Bryan scan them to determine if any biological concern arises between naturally occurring biochemistries as well as microorganisms,
Munter suggested. What good would that do?
It would allow me to establish a baseline for healthy microorganisms within your system, as well as providing a baseline between whether you can be around others without a sterilization field,
Munter explained. So don't get sick, or so they don't.
Both of those are potential concerns. I would advise you to recall similar cases within your own species, since it is a sufficiently common issue without being compounded by stasis utilization.
Don't they have some kind of super meds to protect them? Rick seemed to be choking, but then flashed a rune for serious inquiry.
I cannot speak to that. The medical systems aboard the station is fairly basic and possesses some medical templates, but nothing that I would suppose as being a cure-all, if I'm interpreting the lexicon correctly in your vernacular.
Fair enough, I guess. It still feels strange to be this far into the future, and there is not just that much more. Rick shrugged again.
Please elaborate.
There's no super tech. None of the items that we were researching or had in our stories of ridiculous technology that shouldn't work or wouldn't likely work within our lifetimes. It's also, basic. The tech in that bay. Sure, there's a few things I could read or maybe work, but it all looked like a standard outpost, other than Xenos. There's just nothing to really get excited about. Rix gesticulated rather vigorously at the region around them.
Is there a particular type of technology that you would want to determine if it exists?
Munter was connected to the GullNet and poised to search. Elevators. I always wanted to see them make that work, Rix said without even a moment's hesitation.
Teleporters being translocation of living being from one location to another without the organics being created and destroyed to eliminate the tissue with a semi-instantaneous cloning,
Mantu asked, skeptically already. That's it. It's something I grew up with hearing about. They talked about making it possible with people within a few years of the colony. Rumors were the Flicks already had some prototypes that they were able to send creatures through. Monty provided several of the related search terms to a generic GullNet query mechanism. Quickly, Monty was inundated with all manner of fictional accounts of this particular type of technology. It was in fact not as simple as the Terrans appeared to suggest, and while it was a common theme within fictional accounts, no practical versions appeared to exist.
You are correct that such technology does not appear to exist,
Monty said after a few minutes' worth of review. See, I want to know what the Flicks manage, but I'll bet they made it work. But that'd be even stranger since nobody else appears to have that kind of tech.
Do you have an alternate that perhaps is more likely?
Monty requested. Well, I know you exist, so that's something at least. Rick shrugged and appeared to think a bit more. Has anyone built a Nevian or a Brosen sphere? Monty felt utterly strange at finding neither of the reference within the lexicon, although they suspected that it had to do with the Terran's understanding of the concepts.
I'm unable to determine the base concept between either, so a clarification is needed.
Megastructures, so big they encompass an entire star, Rick grinned, his eyes slightly glazed as though seeing such a thing within his own memory only. Monty ran a query for stellar-scale megastructures. This, too, was met with significant quantities of fictional accounts, as well as a number of economics arguments by various species for and against the construction of such structures, relative to the perceived benefit or loss. One such economic argument considered the use of the complete stellar enclosure, channeling the enclosed energy into a means of powering computing structures capable of outclassing tacits by several orders of magnitude, as well as providing a system with all the energy capacity it would need without any supplements or extraneous technologies. The counter to this was that such stellar enclosure would severely impact the utilization of the system beyond the enclosure, and the enclosure itself would suffer severe issues, not only with material construction needs to complete such a task, but also likely require near constant adjustment to ensure the tidal forces and the void debris did not impact the operation of such an enclosure. One group of beings had broached the subject with an enclosure that was in complete variant, thereby significantly limiting the material costs, the logistics of support, and the impact of the system beyond. The rebuttal to this argument was that the cost-benefit ratio for such an endeavor would not be sufficient for the species to warrant taking the time and energy in creating such a structure, particularly when fusion systems are so common and so easy to maintain at the smaller level. This rebuttal even included the economic difficulties they were commonly experienced in attempting to maintain large fusion systems, let alone a stellar-sized one. The arguments appeared to devolve from scientific concerns to more personal and all species-centric concerns, but it had made its point.
Due to the economics involved in the construction of most stellar enclosures, even partial ones, it does not appear that any have been made by any species on record, Monty told Rix.
That's what I mean. It's weird, and frankly boring.
In the midst of your contemplation of your place in the present time compared with what proposed by the researchers and fictional accounts of your time, I've been given a menu of food stores available from Bryan. She has indicated that she would appreciate gratitude in this gesture. Monty decided to shift the discussion, deciding to look around at technologies that may interest the Terran as being futuristic.
Is this because I don't want mealworms? Rix asked, flashing a self-awareness rune, which didn't entirely fit, but the discrimination between that and the rune the Terran meant was due to an emotional context that Monty would have to revisit at a later time.
In part, it appears that your rejection of sharing mealworms with her was perceived as rude, in conjunction with our request for an alternate menu, Monty said. I believe I was able to persuade her that it is also a matter of biocompatibility that we received the menu.
I shouldn't like to accidentally have a nice big bowl of arsenic. Rix leaned forward and looked at the menu that Monty had sent to his scroll.
I do not have insight into your food systems. Is there a malfunction that I need to be aware of? Monty asked.
Not exactly. It's just that it's a set menu with only a few months' worth of stocks, Rix scrolled, appearing to squint at the various items.
Is it not equipped to mass repurposing systems?
Monty was surprised to ask this, given how familiar the Terran had been with the portable printer and mass scoop. Not on the ship the size of the Esperanto, maybe a destroyer size, but that's just a matter of logistics. Hard pack several months' worth of rations on a ship that size. Most smaller ships just pack rations, though. Not even sure my reactor could run one if I had one, Rix said, appearing to be adding annotations to various items in the menu.
Such as the portable printer and mass scoop that are currently connected to this vessel,
Munter suggested. Rix looked up for a moment and over to the walking frame. Yeah, something like that maybe. I guess we'd have to check and make sure that we aren't going to run out of reaction mass trying to make me 6 meals a day. Plus, we still have to figure out templates that work. Last time we tried, we got raw meat and some kind of jerky. Might have been some kind of xenogoat by the taste. Rix cocked his head to one side.
Do you not have a means of meal preparation?
Munter pressed, having partially solved the issue internally thus far. Not on the Esperanto. They left that part of the gallery off so that they had enough room for all the shielding.
How is it then that I've seen you consume warm foods and beverages?
Chemical packs designed to provide concentrated thermal energy. They didn't even give me space for a radio reheater. I mean, I was only supposed to be on board for a month or so, and then they'd have moved me over to a working station to service duty. So, it wasn't going to be a matter in any case, Rix shrugged.
Is the Esperanto rated for atmospheric flight? I'm uncertain I would agree with the assessment that it is.
Munter looked at the drives via the virtual side-eye. Nope. They were going to strip it down from orbit from parts. Or add some boosters once we got there so I could land it and they could break it down for parts there. Rix appeared to look longingly at the walls around the pair.
Would this not pain you as a captain of the vessel?
Munter asked, seeming to sense what the Terran wasn't expressing in runes. It would have, but I wasn't like it was my last ship. The Essentia, that was my baby. I wonder what happened to it, Rix asked, thumbing the rune for a rhetorical question. Munter had already presupposed the Terran was asking a rhetorical question. The Terran was full of them, and truthful answers were rarely ever welcome. The idea that this Essentia was broken into its component pieces somewhere in the years past, or otherwise utilized or lost infinitesimally unlikely, and Rix almost certainly knew this. Munter guessed that more of what Rix was asking was less about the ultimate fate of the vessel, and more about what manner of travels the ship had taken, since he had relinquished it.
To whom did you relinquish the vessel?
Munter tried. A relative. She'd had graduated her basic. I figured it would be best for the Essentia found its way with her, especially since I wouldn't be around to keep an eye on either of them. Rix's eyes glazed with memory. The pair sat in silence for a period of time.
Why did you believe it to be unlikely that you would not see them again?
Munter guessed. I lied before, Rix said quietly. Munter checked through their conversations with the Terran and tried to determine when and where the Terran had lied.
About what?
Munter asked. The trip was a lot longer before I crashed out, Rix said.
By how much?
Munter tried looking back through their stellar cartography records, trying to guess just how far the Terran could have been coming from. 10 weeks.
10 weeks in real space-time is not a substantial difference,
Munter relayed. It was still a difference, but not the difference that the Terran was making it seem. 10 weeks in jump space, Rix corrected. Munter instantly started running the numbers and everything the Terran had told them about jump drive. 10 weeks in jump space at near 1 to 10 ratio, Munter using the departure chronometer's differential and the attached station chronometer and adjusted for the timing provided by the jump drive systems to get a more exact measurement, equated to nearly 100 weeks in real space. Given further than semi-log function of long jumps as far as Rix had described, in 11 weeks, the Terran would have crossed the whole of acknowledged galactic society, crossing from the most distant colony in the Bintu to the homeworld of the Sol system of the Whiterick in a fraction of the time that the journey should normally take, and experiencing far less that time within the same degree of travel. It was staggering to even consider. Such a trip would have been nearly impossible for early FTL travel. Munter even calculated the standard number of jumps that would require for conventional FTL to cross such a distance in even reasonable amount of time.
Why did you lie?
Munter asked, still running numbers. Because it's what I told myself. If I didn't like it, it was only a week's trip back. It's what I told them all. Just going to go set up a new colony and I'll be back in a few years, Rix said. His voice still quiet, the normally moving hand seemingly frozen in position.
Except you suffered an equipment failure,
Munter commented, trying to make Rix feel better. There is no colony here. Never was, and they've never heard of Terrans. Means they never made it. Maybe it means nobody made it. Rix's voice seemed almost defeated.
How is that likely given the significant degree of protection and effort placed in ensuring the vessel operations?
Munter asked. Practically zilch except for one idea. Rix's voice seemed to take on a bit of an edge in that moment. Munter kept silent, but flashed the elaboration requested rune. Sabotage. End of chapter.
I'd quickly like to thank all the T5 channel members and patrons. Cam Maxwell, Casper Arnholtz, Lord Azrekahl, Holly's sister, Dragzoon W.R.E, and AmbroseKTal. Thank you very much.